Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show slash podcast slash conversation with Dave DuFour. And of course, I'm now hearing myself. I don't know why. Do you hear that, Dave?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. I'm hearing my an echo. I will figure out why in a second, but keep going.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the game. And
We're in preseason form
oh
right
yeah,
here.
I am really rusty. I think I know it's. I think my YouTube stream is on. I'm going to open that up and mute that really quick. There we go. Okay, so I'm back. Sorry, forgive me that. Now let's talk about the first game, shall we? Because we had the Sixers versus the Celtics. Overall impressions first, Dave. What do you think?
I think it's safe to say that the Celtics are still a better team than the 76ers. That's my big takeaway. This thing where a lot of people, I've heard it mentioned. Now, most people weren't saying this, but there are plenty who were, that they felt like Philly might be in that mix in the top of the East. I just don't think they're there.
I agree.
They're going to really miss Bellinelli and Ilyasova, who were largely responsible for that huge run they went on at the end of the last season and going into the playoffs. What we saw tonight was just a continuation of what we saw when the Celtics dominated them in the playoffs.
I agree. And I think that what's going to happen here is the Celtics have so much more at every position. It just feels like they're going to keep trotting them out. And I don't think that the Sixers have enough. Of course, with Ilyasova and Bellinelli, it will help a little bit, but I don't think it moves the needle enough for them to truly compete in a 7-game series. I think that Stevens' biggest issue or his biggest challenge is going to be like which 5-man lineups to play together. I think that's going to be a challenge he'll have all season long. And his goal probably will be simply to get it fine-tuned by the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly, and I think they went away from their starting 5 last season, which was the best lineup in the league statistically, because I think they're making the long-term play with Fultz, and while that may be smart for the long term, it is not going to be conducive to having a great regular season. It's not going to be conducive to getting a high seed for the playoffs. It's there's a lot of reasons why it's not a good thing, but once again, if your goal is you're thinking a couple years down the line, all right, then it's smart. You want to play Fultz. He's number 1 pick, and hopefully he was that for a reason. I think that what we saw tonight out of Redick, Redick looked great. He looked exactly like he did at the end of April last year, and I thought Simmons looked great. Embiid did not look great to me.
Okay.
He looked a little tired, a little out of shape. And obviously, I don't think his head was completely in the game because he blew a few assignments. Now, I know you disagree with me on that.
I do. I actually felt like if you had to look at who was the most dominant player consistently across the game, it felt like it was Embiid. I felt like there were moments when he was just really covering for players, teammates as well on defense, blocking some shots or contesting shots and controlling the paint on defense, and then also doing damage on the offensive end as well. I love Ben Simmons, and I thought he had some terrific highlights, but it felt like a lot of his numbers to me felt empty. I'm going to have to watch it again, though, just to kind of get a handle on when the runs happened, because it seemed like the only time the Sixers were trying to challenge was when Embiid was driving that train. So that's what made me feel, right now in my mind's eye that was why he, played better than anybody else on that team. But you felt like Simmons played better?
I did. I definitely did. I thought Simmons was the engine behind the best runs that they went on in the entire game. And not to mention Saric, who actually had foul trouble, and so he only wound up with 23 minutes. So Saric looked okay. I thought that JJ looked great, and that Ben Simmons also looked pretty damn good. But Embiid, he just looked a little slow to me, looked a little winded, looked a little out of shape. Maybe his head wasn't quite in it. Before the game, he was watching Rick and Morty or something.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, an issue I have is that Embiid played 37 minutes tonight and Ben Simmons played 43. Now, look, those guys are young, but minutes management starts on day 1 of training camp, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't come into the first game of the season and lose by 18 and have these guys combined for 80 minutes. It's way too much.
Right. And by the way, I kind of let the Fultz thing go by. Well, let's go back to that for a second because,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot's been made about his jump shot. He hit at least one jumper in the lane and he hung in the air and shot it, and that looked okay. But like his free throws and the rhythm is just really not good. And it's frightening because it's not like there's a lot of time to be able to fix that once the season starts. So we're probably going to be stuck here where he's going to struggle, and that's going to hurt his mental state, I think. So, and here's the bigger thing. Even independent of his jump shot, his balance is terrible. Like off the dribble, when he was trying to drive, he kept getting his nose over his toes. He was almost falling down almost every time. It's really frustrating to watch that. So you have that going on, and I don't know how that's going to fix itself. There might be some notion of, okay, get some reps and he'll get better at that, but I don't know. And then you have Simmons, who, he also made some similar mistakes and some similar trouble with that right hand finishing that he likes to do. Some of it was great, some of it wasn't. And some of the shots he takes that clearly he should be a righty the way his footwork works.
Everything about it. Yes.
He had a turnaround in the post where it's a righty turnaround and he should have a lefty and it bricked. So that's frustrating to me. It's probably also clouding my vision of his game tonight because I keep seeing that same stuff. And meanwhile, I was watching Embiid. He was catching the ball on the perimeter, breaking guys down and going by him off the dribble, posting up, doing that stuff. So I felt like he was more in tune with what his role is supposed to be and how he's supposed to execute versus the other two guys. So yeah, I think what we're saying is the Sixers are a peg down.
Well, they also overachieved last year compared to how they should have finished the season. I think that they won 53 games last year, and they were probably like a 48, 49 win team. And I think that has altered our perception quite a bit. This year, if they win 50 games, they did okay. Here's the other thing. If that's a team that expects to be in the finals contention this year, they had a failure of a summer. They didn't add the pieces that they needed. They lost some players that they should have tried to retain, and they didn't get the third guy to go with Simmons and Embiid. So they had a tumultuous summer, right? They losing their GM because of the burner account fiasco.
Wow. That was like 8 months ago, wasn't it?
No, that was June.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that really set them back. And I do like the direction going forward. I think Elton Brand's going to be really good. He's well respected around the league. He's a smart guy. I don't think they would have interviewed all these people and wound up with Elton Brand unless they felt comfortable with him. So, I think that they're going to be heading in the right direction. But that's the summer. This summer was a waste for them. And JJ Redick's not getting any younger. So, what are you going to keep rolling him out there? You're going to bring him back next year?
Right. And that's the other thing about Redick, what I don't like about their offense sometimes is that he dribbles too much. And the plays are designed for him to be coming off those handoffs to dribble and attack. And he played well, but there were moments we saw that too where he just, he shouldn't be doing that. It's just not his thing, even if he worked on his handle or whatever. So one thing that, very minor, but a thing I've noticed last year and this year too, where he really just should be a catch and shoot three guy coming off all those screens like he's been doing, for his whole career. Let's go quickly to some questions. We have the highlights on the YouTube side. Every once in a while, someone has a nice big orange notification on there. I'm not sure why or what they did to get that, but it catches my eye. So Kevin Spacey asks our take on the Sixers bench. Now, we briefly discussed that as far as who wasn't there, but should we talk about who was out there tonight and what your thoughts were?
I mean, I thought Redick was really good.
Okay.
And that's really about it. Amir Johnson, I don't know if he's a rotation guy anymore.
He looked good though. He looked in shape,
okay.
Right?
Yeah, he looked okay. But I mean, is he affecting the game in a positive manner? I don't think so.
I mean, he played 11 minutes. He got 3 boards and 5 points. But I do want to make sure, like, he looks like a little bit in better shape. Maybe he looks like he's slimmed down. He's more cut.
Maybe he's healthier.
I'm encouraged by that.
Last year he was coming off the ankle thing, so maybe he's healthier. I don't know that T.J. McConnell is a rotation point guard.
Blasphemy!
But he was
your mic off.
He was terrible for them last year statistically. He played way too much, and they didn't do anything to really address that role. And they talked about there's a lot of lip service paid to why they didn't start Fultz coming out of halftime. They wanted to give him, quote unquote, point guard minutes, but they played him with McConnell.
Right.
McConnell can't stretch the floor at all. He's not going to really like cut and finish inside.
Hey, he had a really nice finish off the glass tonight, and he had some nice assists. He makes plays, but
sun shines on a dog's ass some days.
Oh, have we already had this? This feels like we've had this argument before.
We have, and like
I'm making a T-shirt. It's going to say T.J. McConnell is good because he is.
But good is relative. Good compared to what?
Good compared to other NBA players.
No.
Yeah.
No,
he's an NBA. He's a legit guard in the NBA.
He's below average at best. Landry Shamet looked pretty good. I like that he's out there gunning. That's great. They need someone to shoot, space the floor. Korkmaz didn't really play, and I'm kind of surprised. He was great in Summer League. So I'd like to see him get some run. And, other than that, I mean, there's not much there. Meanwhile, on the other side, you had Marcus Morris, who was fantastic tonight. You had Aaron Baines, who was my Danny Green All-Star Player of the Game for tonight. You had Marcus Smart, who was a perennial Danny Green All-Star, who was pretty great. And Terry Rozier, who is probably a starting point guard and coming off the bench. I mean, the Celtics have an embarrassment of riches, and it's honestly, if any team in the league is not fair, I know we talk a lot about like the high end talent. We tend to focus there, but if KD gets hurt, we knock the Warriors down a peg. Or if Steph is hurt, I mean, they definitely get knocked down a peg. The Celtics actually have an embarrassment of riches. They have an embarrassment of guys who are good, and I think that's a really good spot to be in. I mean, I don't know. They're going to be really tough this year.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Irving's really, really bad game? Couldn't shoot the ball at all. Really couldn't get in the flow. He got 7 assists, but he just wasn't in sync, right?
Yeah, he looked rusty. He looked like he's not back in shape yet.
Yeah.
Hayward actually was okay. Let me look at the stats. I mean, he didn't shoot it well, but I thought his defense was pretty good. In particular, he was getting into passing lanes, making plays. And that's feel of the game stuff, so that's good to see. But he doesn't really have any bursts, doesn't have any no explosiveness whatsoever. Stopping looked hard for him, and no first step. But I think that's going to be the story of the season.
Yeah, I bet it'll take him 40 games to kind of find it.
If he finds it this year at all. Yeah. But Kyrie, he'll be okay. He just needs to play his way in.
And Ojale didn't play either, which is interesting. Again, a more embarrassment of riches because that guy can contribute, significantly when they need him. Yeah. Tony Robaz asks on the YouTube side, how do you think Gordon Hayward will affect Tatum and Brown's development for this season? Good question.
I mean, if tonight's any indication, this year he's not going to get in the way at all.
Certainly not out of Tatum.
No. I mean, even with Brown, I just don't think they're just different guys. And I think that with Brown and Tatum, they're not going to be affected by not touching the basketball. They're going to get their points. They're going to make their plays in ways that don't require them to have the basketball a lot. Now, Hayward needs to show that he's going to be able to do that. Now, his health is the biggest, question mark as far as that's concerned. So, we'll see what happens. This whole notion that there's only one basketball is weird for a team like this when you've got so many guys who've already shown that they're willing to share the ball. Even Kyrie Irving has shown like he's willing to play the right way and share the ball if the right way is sharing the ball. He's shown that that's the right way or that he's willing to play that way. Now, he's also shown that sometimes him taking the basketball and ISOing is the right way to play, right? Like Tatum did that a couple of times tonight, but you're not going to hear anybody say, well, he, is a ball hog or whatever they would say about Kyrie Irving.
Absolutely. I'm responding to somebody in our chat here because now Tatum, I just want to gush a little bit about Tatum because All-Star, he's an All-Star this year, right?
I predicted that. I went on the friend of the Breakdown Fast Break Breakfast podcast. And I predicted Jason Tatum making the All-Star team.
Okay. I mean, I don't even think it's not even like a big prediction or a bold prediction, but
hey, it was treated like it was a hot take. Oh. I don't think it's a hot take. I think for sure he's looking like it.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to think that the Celtics are going to put 3 or 4 guys on the All-Star team? I don't think
No,
so.
no, it's not crazy at all. And I think Tatum is Luke Skywalker in chapter 6,
And
Return of the
Return
Jedi.
of the Jedi. You
That's
mean
what
at
he
the
feels like
beginning
to
when he
me.
comes back in the black suit?
Yeah, he
When he's
acknowledges that Vader is his father,
when
but
he's
he's
dressed like a Jedi Knight, despite the fact that he's not actually a Jedi Knight.
well, no, I think he's officially a Jedi at
He
that
didn't
point.
finish his training. He left. He did not finish his training.
Yoda dies in the end of Empire, right? Or no, does Yoda die in the beginning of Return of the
Beginning
Jedi?
of Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Thus, he never finished his training. Let's hope Jason Tatum finishes his training.
Yes, that's true.
And by the way, it will definitely be broadcast on Instagram.
For sure. Well, let's see here. Dick Dastardly says Sixers have absolutely no spacing. Do they throw Korkmaz out there for something, anything? Yeah, well, I mean, it's an interesting question about spacing because when you throw a guy like Shamet out there, even though he's missing, he is technically providing spacing, right? Because he's shooting out there, and they probably are worried about him a little bit. So that's the other question. And I've been meaning to ask this for some of the NBA guys. I'm going to try and get some information on this. What does the spacing mean? How many steps over does it give you when you have a shooter on the weak side, for instance, versus a non-shooter? I'm kind of curious how much space we really are talking. It's probably only about a step, right?
Yeah, but that step for NBA athletes is huge.
Okay,
So,
it is. I mean, it depends, but yes. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, one step is a contested shot versus a semi-contested shot, right? And that's a big difference.
Yeah, I guess. And then that goes back to discussing exactly what about the contest actually affects the shot. But we'll be doing some research this year.
Yeah.
But either way, okay, good point. Well, what do you say? Should we kind of pivot a little bit to the game 2?
Sure.
Okay. Well, game 2 looked like it was going to be a blowout.
I know. I'm pissed at the Warriors. I really wanted to just be able to turn that game off, get this live stream started.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's a lot of people out here joining us in this late night thing to kick off the season. And let's thank everybody. Thank you so much for coming out and joining us tonight. And we're going to get to as many of your questions as we can once we get through our quick analysis of this. So first quarter, I thought the Warriors looked great. They were running their offense. They were really attacking. And here's the one thing that's interesting is they were getting a ton of Curry screening for Kevin Durant, which it was almost unstoppable. That might be the video I'll do for tomorrow on this game. Is just all the possessions where they had Curry and Durant, Curry screening for Durant, either off ball or on ball, and it's devastating.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this for 2 years now. First of all, Curry is a fantastic screener, and the threat that he poses as a pop guy out of the screen creates a lot of space for whoever he screens for. And the Steph Curry, Kevin Durant pick and roll, no matter which direction it goes, no matter who the screener is and who's got the ball in their hands, it's the most devastating weapon in the NBA. And so the more of that we can get, the better. And Steph is such a willing screener that, I mean, he really opened up a lot for them.
Absolutely. And it just creates so much there's that word spacing again, because you don't want to leave Curry, and you certainly don't want to let Kevin Durant curl into the lane or get open. And then it opened up things where either Curry would curl around after setting a screen, and then the guy, here's a great play. He set a back screen for Kevin Durant out of bounds play. Then he got his own down screen, and when he curled, he could just easily lob it to, I think it was Looney who set the screen for him, or Damian Jones. And all that was related to him setting the screen initially for Kevin Durant. So finally they're getting the memo, and they're running that, because I think we were complaining about that for years of them not doing it enough. And I'm not just to the ball screen, I'm talking about the off-ball screens too. So if they start doing that, it's going to be a real problem. What happened, I think, in the game is it changed. Curry went to the bench for an extended period in that second quarter, and I feel like that's what kind of got the Thunder, sort of kept them close. They closed the gap a little bit with Curry off. And again, it's that argument about, well, who is more important, Curry or Kevin Durant?
Well, I think it's clear.
Tonight?
I don't think that's a question. I don't think anybody who actually knows basketball, I don't think that's a real question. The way that they score with Steph Curry is effortless. It's very easy. The game looks easier when he's out there. And for KD, while KD is incredible, it just seems like it's much more of a slog to get points. And again, this is why Steph Curry and what he does is so unique. Like, it's easier to compare him to Shaq than it is any guard, right? Like, I mean, the way he affects the game, his gravity, and it helps that he's also super unselfish and works hard, right, at getting guys open and getting himself open. Now, Shaq didn't have to do that, but they affect the games in similar ways. It's kind of like different areas for the gravity to kind of exist. So, yeah, I mean, the offense is just it's just incredible when he's out there. And then, it's still really good with Durant, but it's just not the same.
Right. And I think the distinction is Durant is a better scorer, but Curry has much more impact on the game when he's out there. He's stretching the floor, running the offense, causing gravity issues for the defense.
Makes everyone better.
Yeah, and he makes everyone better. And that's, it's not really Durant's role, even though we'd seen him do that when Russ went out and Kevin Durant won the MVP in Oklahoma City. He was running that point guard role and facilitating. So he can do it as well, but just not nearly as good as Curry. It looked like the Thunder wanted to give, it was like a challenge. Who was going to give Curry more open shots in the first half for three? I mean, I think all 5 of the shots he made, the first 5 threes he made, they were all, I think he had 5 feet of room from all of them. It was kind of mind-boggling to me how that was happening.
Yeah, there was one where he was wide open in the corner. And
off offensive rebound, I believe.
Yep, and Adams and Paul George were standing right there, and neither one of them even dared to close out. For some reason.
He dribbled the ball once for a rhythm.
Took a rhythm dribble. It's just, ugh.
Yeah. So it was weird. But then again, the third quarter came by, and Paul George was giving it to him. I want to say someone was commenting on that on the in the feed in the Periscope. But yeah, I mean, Paul George, I think overall he had a stretch because he wasn't great in the first half, but he had a stretch there in the third and into the fourth a little bit where he was just handing it to the Warriors. They matched each other. He matched Kevin Durant's points, and they almost shot the same from the field. But I don't know. I think Paul George might have had the better game. Let's see, KD had a better stats. But either way, I was impressed considering, again, that they didn't have Russell Westbrook. What does that say about the Thunder? Without Robertson, without Westbrook, are they missing anybody else?
No, it's just those two.
Okay.
They're missing Melo. That helps.
Yeah, that helps, yes. So, without those two guys. Now, here's the biggest issue I have, and it's a Donovan, gripe, I guess. Jeremy Grant and Abrinas, I feel like should be starting instead of Patterson and Ferguson.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time. I don't know why. Maybe he has this vision of Abrinas as like this, microwave off the bench shooter guy, but I don't know. I think he's better than Ferguson. He stretches the floor better. He certainly showed that tonight with he went 2 for 6 from 3, but he's a threat, and the guys, they have to close out on him when he's out there.
I think Ferguson was out there tonight for his theoretical defense.
Okay.
I don't think that he really was that good, especially tonight. We'll see. But I think they just wanted some more athleticism, some more defense. Patrick Patterson was surprisingly +3 in his 19 minutes tonight. Paul George was -16 in this game.
Wow. Yeah.
Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah,
he didn't look right to me in the first half, and I mean, I missed the first half of the third quarter because I'm a streamer, like I'm a cord cutter, and YouTube has been on the fritz, as everyone knows. So I have to go back and watch that tomorrow. But he did not look right in the first half. And remember, he had knee surgery, he had the elbow or hand injury as well at the end of last year. So I wonder if he's also kind of working his way back into game shape. He's just a little bit farther ahead.
Very, very well could be. I mean, he looked right. He didn't look as explosive as we've seen him after his major injury he had for Team USA. We've had moments where he's actually looked really good. But you're right. He definitely didn't feel as explosive. But he had moments like in the third quarter, he went 6 for 10, 3 for 6 from 3, and really was +6 in that quarter. So I have a feeling if I grab the first half here, his plus minus is going to be low. That's what's going to probably. Yeah, he was -16 in the first half. So if you look at the second half over at stats.nba.com, he was even 0. So that's what you saw. It was that first half where he just didn't play well, and they got beat badly in the first quarter. That really hurt them. That's what happens if you come out and have a bad first quarter against the Warriors. The odds are you're going to lose that game. Even though you can come back, it's close. They might tease you a little bit, but that 31-23 first quarter was probably it. However, let's give a shout out to Looney. Kevon Looney gets game ball from me. He had a fantastic defensive sequence on Paul George down the stretch, and then he hit a up and under twisting thing. I think the phrase you said was, "How did he make that?"
Yeah, that was insane. He had a double-double tonight in 18 minutes. He was plus 23. That's a game high. You and I have been really high on Looney. Like, in a way, I think that only coaches are high on guys like that.
Right.
Because he's such a smart player, uses all of his length. I mean, we saw him poke the ball away and then from Paul George toward the end of the game, and then really bother him into the shot clock violation. The way he uses his feet, and he guards like he plays in San Antonio. Right, his hands are extremely visible. They're out there. Or Utah, they do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think he had 4 fouls tonight. But when you're mixing it up inside with Steven Adams and those guys, and getting caught on the wing, that's not bad. Especially because he's not the best athlete.
Right. Let's give a shout out to Steven Adams too, because his numbers aren't like standout tonight, but he's just a. Oh, actually, they were. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals.
Can't believe he had double-digit rebounds.
Yeah.
Weird.
Hey.
I wonder why.
Yeah, isn't it funny? And
strange.
Yeah. Although Schroeder got 9 in that same kind of role, but hey.
I feel like Steven Adams could have 20 rebounds a game if he played on a different team.
He could definitely lead the league in rebounding without question. He is. So we were talking about that while we were watching the game. He's got to be like what number rated center would you put him up there in the league right now? And where would you rate him?
You've got Embiid, Gobert, and Jokic.
Towns.
I'd have Adams above Towns.
Woo.
I value defense, man. Like, I care about defense.
Yeah.
In particular from the center. And I know that makes me a little bit of a pariah for NBA Twitter, but I just don't I don't know, man. Like, those numbers don't really impress me, because I don't think that what Karl Anthony Towns does necessarily contributes to winning. You look at how bad they were when Jimmy Butler was out last year, and tell me that Karl Anthony Towns is like a foundational piece. And the league is caught up to this. The GM survey, there's only a couple of questions that they do that I actually put any stock in. And one of them is, who would you build a team around? What guy? And Karl Anthony Towns was like on the list last year, like really high on the list, and was off the list completely this year. And that just goes to show teams are starting to catch up on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I want to say this. I spoke with this in another show, on someone else's show, but I think that the issue with Towns isn't necessarily effort or IQ. I think he doesn't train properly. He's got a real problem with his knees and the way they collapse in on each other, and the core strength. And so I think that half of his defensive issues could be solved if he knew to train better, to move in his functional movement. And it doesn't seem like he's got no one in his team, in his camp, seems to understand this, or is not willing to work on it. I think if he could figure that out, he would be a lot better on defense. He's probably frustrated by it, because he's like, well, I feel like I'm playing hard, and I have Coach Thibodeau behind me to help me, but I don't think until he fixes the way his mechanics are, he's going to be held back.
Well, you and I have talked about this, that's actually, it's a coaching failure. Right, like, I don't put it all on Towns. I do think that this is a coaching failure as well.
Yeah,
and maybe even the training staff. You can just say an organizational failure.
Right. Like, I don't know about Minnesota. Do they have so Phoenix, for instance, is one of those notorious, or not notorious, famous teams that have functional movement people that would work on those things. I don't know. Nothing's ever in my mind's eye. I don't remember hearing anything about Minnesota having that. Right.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but by the way, Towns could have his own guys in the summer helping him too to do that, and that apparently hasn't happened either. So it's there's a lot of information out there he could use.
That would cut into the Fortnite time, though.
All right, is he a Fortnite player?
Yeah.
All right. By the way, I'm thinking about doing a video, because there's a little bit of basketball in Fortnite. Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, there's a little basketball. I was thinking about like maybe trying to reenact in real life with the kind of Fortnite you can play, basketball you can play in Fortnite. That might be my most watched video ever.
Maybe. I mean, the algorithm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Here, we got a good question. H. Crantrell 10, Nerlens Noel a factor this year?
We'll see. I thought what he did tonight was pretty good. He actually was like playing hard, right? That matters. Let's see. It's for him. It's not about talent. It's about attitude. He was kind of unliked in Philadelphia, extremely unliked in Dallas, and so that's kind of a big part of what he's got going on behind the scenes, and that is really limited. I think his growth, right? Like, I think people don't like him, so they don't really do a lot for him.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, don't be a dick, I guess, is the good expression that we have. Like, if you are nice and people want to help you, at the very least, I will say that he can help them. I mean, he's just another long athlete who can defend when he wants to. He can get tips, dunks, and all that sorts of stuff like that. So just another one of those guys that's got a headache for the other team when he comes in there. And so I feel like it's just a question for Donovan of just figuring out the right starting five and getting Russ back. I think once Russ gets back, although I'm a little bit worried only because the scope of his knee, we were looking at the math earlier. I felt like it was already 6 weeks. I think it's like 5 weeks right now. So if he's not back inside of a week, I'd be a little bit concerned because that's about the maximum amount of time you need on a scope if it really was just a simple procedure. So, but once he gets him back, I think that they start Abrinas, they start Jeremy Grant. Then all of a sudden Patterson might be a little bit better off the bench, although we're still waiting for him to be as good as we saw him in Toronto. Then they'll have something. They could be third.
Yeah, I don't know if Patterson's going to get back to that level. He's had the ankle injury, and that was pretty rough on him. And then, I just don't know if he's that player anymore. Robertson is the real one to me, and he won't be back. He's going to miss like 30, 35 games. Right. I think Russ, we pretty much know what we're going to get when he comes back. And we saw that team last year without Robertson. They weren't as good as they were with Robertson. I think we got to see his real value after he got injured, and what he does for that defense is just crucial. And they have a great defense with him. The offense, you know what? They can live with it. They can make it work, but their defense really, really, really needs him. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw Ferguson getting the start, because they want to give it a shot. Hey, maybe this guy with his athleticism can give us kind of a burst on defense. We can get something out of that. I've been really high on them. My biggest issue is how much time is Russ going to miss to start the season? What kind of conditions is he going to be in when he comes back? And then Robertson and the question mark there. Like, my expectation is it may take Robertson until, end of March to even be in real like NBA game shape. So we might not actually see this team at full strength until the playoffs.
Right. And you know what? It might be too late by that point in the West. They might already be struggling. But we'll see.
I think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think if they can hang on, they can go on a run when Robertson comes back. So I would be very worried about playing them in the playoffs. So that's the point. That they're going to be
a really dangerous 6 seed,
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Are there any other like good questions in here in the chat right now we can grab? Do you see anything in the over on Periscope?
Not really.
Okay.
A lot of like kind of,
Yeah, no, we took care. I just took care of I saw some stuff going on there, but he didn't think we could block him, but I did. So, let's see here. Anybody else ask some questions here? Is Billy Donovan a good coach? Asks Josh GW. He's a good coach. I think that they lost their offense a bit at times tonight, even though I would have thought without Russ they would have relied more on sets. So that's an interesting question. What do you think about Donovan?
I think we saw a little bit tonight what they could get, right? I think we saw like Adams creating at the elbow. This is stuff we don't see when Russ is there. Yeah. I think what we saw out of Schroeder was okay. Can we see the same stuff when Russ comes back, or is it just going to go back to the Russ show? And again, Russ is one of my favorite guys to watch, but it's not winning basketball that he plays. Not in 2018. It just isn't. And so can Donovan sort of impose his will a bit? Sorry, I just hit my mic. Can he impose his will and get him to play, a more modern style of offense? And we'll see.
No.
That's the question.
I don't think so.
That begs the question. How can you say he's a good coach if he can't get buy-in from his players? So
right, it's tough because he comes in having a situation where Russ is already the man and he doesn't want to get fired. You're right. It's a whole lot of things, but that's why you have to be able to get to Russ, convince him that way without getting fired, without getting Russ mad at you. It's a really hard tightrope to walk. And I think he's been maximizing it to pretty much. I do feel like their performance in the playoffs last year left something to be desired, and I think he got outcoached by Utah.
Quinn Snyder.
Thank you, Quinn Snyder. But you know what? Well, he'll have another chance this year to see what happens. Top Class Dante asks thoughts on Nick Nurse. Now, we don't know a lot about Nick Nurse, but we do know that, as far as I could tell, he spearheaded the change in the offense last year. And that deserves a lot of kudos. So if that's the case, then I have high hopes for him as far as the offensive leader for the Raptors, that he should be able to lead them. Now, communication-wise and managing all that stuff, we don't really know yet, and we'll have to find out what happens when they lose 2 in a row or 3 in a row on a road, how he's going to deal with that. But what's your take?
I don't have one yet. Okay. It's gonna take a while. I need to watch him.
Yeah,
I need to watch how they do. Toronto is actually one of the teams. I'm probably going to watch as many of their games as they have. Like I'm going to, in the first half of the season, out of 41 games, I'm going to try to watch like 35.
Wow.
Because, again, new coach, couple new players, and they're a real competitor. Like they're going to be a contender.
Okay.
Whereas, Golden State, we kind of know what they're about until Boogie comes back. The Celtics, I think we kind of know who they are. And, Houston's going to take a step back. I'm very familiar with Utah. So Toronto is kind of, to me, like the unknown quantity of the teams that really have a shot at the title, of the 3 teams that have a shot at the title.
Great point. Well, we'll have to keep our eye on that. Let's see if we can run down really quickly. Let's do some 30-second answers. D1 asks, Warriors 3-peat. Yeah, I guess, the odds are they're not, because to win 4 in 5 years is impossible. But, yeah, they're gonna win it, right?
Probably.
All right. Ian Renly asks, you notice that Clay dribbled more than he normally does. We do understand that Steve Kerr wants to get Clay involved in more attacking off the dribble, more handoffs. So, yeah, expect to see Clay attacking off the dribble, which will open up easier shots for Curry and Kevin Durant as well.
And don't forget that the regular season is a laboratory for teams like the Warriors, and they're going to try stuff like that. Because they want to be able to use that as a weapon in situations in the playoffs.
Yeah. We have a couple of interesting questions that are kind of related. Wu-Tang Biscuit asks, do you guys think the system in OK needs to change? And then Chester Eugene right after that said, will Schroeder do better outside of Coach Bud's offense? So we can kind of combine those two real quick. I'll weigh in real quick. OKC system doesn't need to change, but he just needs to get Russ to kind of run it more. And then I think that Schroeder looked, he's a good. He's not a starting point guard. He's a good point guard off the bench. So I think Bud's offense and Pop's offense. It limits point guards' assists to some degree. I feel like Tony Parker never got more than like 7.5 assists a game. He's not a volume assist guy because of the way the offense runs. But I think that, Schroeder would get an opportunity per minute to get more assists than he did in Atlanta. What are your thoughts?
Sure. I care a lot more about team assists than I do one guy. I think that's more indicative of, team success. I like the fact that, he was gunning tonight. You don't have to worry about him not taking shots.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that helps if he's coming off the bench. Can he and Russ coexist on the court together? Because I do think that they're 2 of the top 5 players on that team. Right. Like I agree with you that his ideal role is backup point guard, but they don't have the depth right now. So can they coexist and play together? And will that unlock the stuff that you and I have talked about with Russ, where if he's playing off the ball, he can actually create some gravity. It's not going to be Steph Curry style gravity, but he could really wreak some havoc on the court playing off the ball. And Schroeder and Paul George can then maximize that and get him the ball and get him easier scoring opportunities. So will that happen? Those are the big things for me.
Yeah, great points. Let's really quickly run down some good questions we got in the Periscope as we wind this up. So let's see here. Jordan Bell, rest of the season outlook. I mean, he's so athletic. He's going to get a lot of minutes. He's going to be great for them. Agree or disagree?
Sure.
Okay. Can this Thunder team win a championship with this core? Great question, Shams Jams.
Can the who?
The Thunder.
No.
Okay. How did the refs do? The players weren't so happy with the refs in game 2.
Thought it was fine.
But
the one call that I thought was bad was the clear path call on Schroeder.
Yeah. He needs to at least grab him a little bit more, I suppose.
Right.
But the way they called the game in game 1 was weird. They weren't calling anything in the first half. It was like prison rules. But especially because they had come off of the preseason where they were calling a lot of fouls. It's very strange. Let's see here. Do you see a Reggie Jackson type of situation happening with Dennis and Russ?
No.
No, right?
No. The Reggie Jackson situation shouldn't have been the Reggie Jackson situation. And it wouldn't have been if Russ had not gotten hurt.
But I think he means Reggie being a pariah in the locker room and then ultimately having to get out of the traded.
But that happened because Reggie kind of
I see
played well when Russ was out, and then
wanted to be
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, plus I think we know a little bit more about Schroeder than we knew about Reggie Jackson at the time.
Right. James Pritchard asks, who should they start as shooting guard for the Thunder? I think they should do Abrinas. So there's my answer there. Yeah. Pancake Mix 3. Do you think that Marcus Smart will continue to take too many threes? Yeah.
Whoa, too many.
Yeah, I mean, he jacks him up, man. He's not a great shooter.
You know what? We'll see.
How many did he get? Crap, I don't have it up anymore. What to look?
He was 2 for 3 at one point.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll pull it back up. He wound up being 2 for 4.
Okay.
But so they were good looks, man. They were good looks.
Let's see if we can do this. Celtics Rise. Thoughts on Charles Barkley bringing up the idea of bringing Kyrie off the bench?
No.
Man, he's got some edibles. Guap Gods asks, who averages the most assists on the Lakers? Interesting question. You have LeBron, Rondo, or Lonzo.
Well, I mean, you have to take minutes into account. First of all, I think Rondo is going to play a lot more than he should.
Yeah.
And probably start. I think Rondo is going to average the most assists because Rondo is going to make sure that he averages the most assists. I mean, Rondo is going to pass out of fast break layups where he's the only guy on that end of the court to get assists.
Okay. Yeah, like LeBron's going to nail him the dime, and he's just going to give the dime up again. Yep. Yeah, and we saw a little bit of that too. It's exciting though. So okay, fair enough. Rondo. I mean, I would say it's probably either Rondo or LeBron. And it might even go down the wire. Maybe they'll be like the top assist duo of all time. Like they both have 8 or 9 each or something. Interesting stuff. So we'll see. Their issue isn't going to be that. It's going to be on the other end of the floor. But we have no issues because we have our first live show in the books.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's super late here because I'm now in the Central Time. It's 1 a.m. This is insane.
Yeah, I know. Well, too bad. Too bad you left the West Coast, but we'll get earlier. We'll do some Sunday afternoon games and whatnot, so it won't be so bad for you. But thanks everybody out there for joining us such late night. And if you're listening to this in the podcast early tomorrow morning or something, thank you for doing that. And I don't know, Dave, is that it?
I think so.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. Really happy to be back. Happy to see all you guys back. Stay tuned for some videos tomorrow on these games. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You win. Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.